What is going on, everybody? Thank you for coming through on this Wednesday. We got my man Raj from RSF 49ers in here. We're going to talk some 49ers free agency, silliness going on with the Lamar Jackson rumors. I know Raj talked a lot about it last night. I was actually in his Insta Live last night. He was talking about the pass rush. I'm gonna flip that and ask him and see if he has kind of a similar thought to what I asked him in his live last night. Stuff like that. Don't be afraid to ask questions or comments, and we'll do our best to answer them. But Raj, thanks for coming through on this. Hopefully, something we can do for at least for the next little bit on Wednesdays.
Yeah, man. Anytime, man. I'm always like I said, I'm always happy to hop on. I like to talk. If you didn't notice that,
I
so
kind of get picked up. I do too, but I just don't have the I don't have the sources or the information. So a lot of me is just spinning the yarn of the same stuff that we've already talked about. So
it's all good, man. Sometimes you need to get somebody else to get some fresh perspective. But like I said, I love to talk. I'm at work all day. I
you
don't think
are.
I get anything done because I talk all like people love when I'm not at work. They're like,
Yeah, I need to come to the West Coast, bro. You could be my
Yeah,
physical therapist on my knee, and we could just talk 49ers all day.
that's literally all I do, man. It's a vibe with me at work, man. Like even my coworkers today, like I'll be there. If they get hurt, they come to me. Like, "Bro, I hurt my knee." Like one of my coworkers today, she's like, "I hurt my knee. I was playing basketball. Can you look at it?" So I'm like fixing her, fixing my patient. It's fun times, man.
Hold on, guys. I got to go to the bathroom real quick and make a live update. The Niners just signed. Dot, dot,
Yo,
dot.
literally, that's what I do. I'm like, I'm like, oh, I'll be right back. And I'm like going to the break room or the computer room or the toilet, and I'm just like,
There
posting the
is
news.
oh my God. I have a feeling because, like, I don't have the, I want to do that at work, but there's always people around me and there's always a lot of noise. So I'll have to figure something out at some
Yeah.
point if I ever become like a breaking news channel. Let's, what would you like? I mean, we got the Purdy news this Friday, surgery. We're going to learn a lot about what direction the 49ers are going in the offseason. But let's tackle this Lamar Jackson thing. I know you did, like I said, you did it last night. I haven't yet. First of all, where is this coming from? Like, is this just a lot of speculation that's kind of turned into a whirlwind and like all of a sudden 49er fans and analysts are like, maybe it's possible. To me, it just seems like a far-fetched situation just because of the amount of capital they would have to give up and possibly talent as well and how that would fit into the long-term plans. What's your take on the whole kind of craziness?
So I don't think there's any legit like actual source saying it's like gonna happen because nowadays anybody just claims a source per source because in the we used to sit here and make fun of people that didn't have like a credited source. Like people can just throw out a source because they want to get lucky. They're like, man, if this hits, I'm gonna get a lot of clout. And even if it doesn't hit or not, you're gonna get a lot of traction. You're gonna get gained. You're gonna gain a lot of likes and all that stuff. And at the moment, it's a trending topic. Lamar Jackson yesterday, right, got the exclusive tag, and then they throw out the all what that means. He can get another team can offer him. The Ravens can put him over the top and keep him on the team, or if they don't, they'll give up. They have to give up 2 first-round picks. So I just think that people are now speculating because that's what fans do, right? Of every team, right? As soon as someone gets cut, fans of a team, oh, he's gonna go to a Niner. He's a Niner. He's a Bronco. He's a this. He's a that. That's what people do. So this is starting to get traction because people want it to happen because the 49ers, we always have quarterback drama, and there's a lot of uncertainties. This year more than ever, I feel like in the last couple of years, there's a lot more uncertainty with the 49ers. Like you mentioned, Brock Purdy and the surgery, we have no clue. We have no clue what the surgery is going to entail. And then Trey Lance, he's the unknown commodity. I think a lot of the media is like, okay, we have the Super Bowl window. They keep talking about the window. 49ers have a window. They have all these great players that can win now. Can Trey win now? And then so they're saying, maybe if they get an elite quarterback, they can win now. And Lamar Jackson, former MVP, he's an elite quarterback. If he was to be inserted into this lineup, hypothetically, maybe then they could win the Super Bowl. Maybe then Kyle Shanahan gets over the hump. So I feel like it's just more fantasy than anything realistic. But there are some scenarios where it actually could happen. But it has to come down to, do the 49ers want to make this happen? Because then they're always looking to strengthen their team. That's what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan say. They say, we're always looking. We're doing our due diligence. So if they're always doing due diligence and Lamar Jackson is actually available, I'm sure they'll look into it. But you have 2 young quarterbacks on a rookie contract. it makes more sense to kind of go that route. Hopefully they pan out. Hopefully they're healthy, and you can build around those contracts because they got a lot of players that are going to be free agents next week, and they got to also bring back Bosa and Ayuk next year. So it's hard to really justify that. Yeah, they're going to go get Lamar. If there's an option, if there's availability, I would do it. I don't know. What do you think?
The Niners, or not the Niners, the NFL is about having a quarterback, an elite level quarterback. Those are the teams that get to the Super Bowl. And as we've seen with Lamar or with Pat Mahomes, that's how you win. Defense is great. The Niners have a really good defense, but let's be honest. We thought the Eagles had a really good defense, or at least Niner fans. I don't know if they did, but the rest of the league thought they did. And even as good as they try to play in that game, he's just he's that good. He's a generational guy. Lamar is like a level right below that. You know, he's got, the questions of whether he can win in the playoffs. He's had some problems with that. Inaccuracy, maybe not being able to hit open receivers, that kind of stuff. But I also think Lamar's been in a system and on a team that didn't have quite the level of players that the 49ers do. And that him on this roster, we were talking off stream, say the Niners go and draft another tight end, and now we have 2 tight ends and McCaffrey and this person and that person, and we have Kyle Shanahan scheming it. Whatever inabilities you think or what level of play you think he might not be at as quite as Mahomes, he's still a very athletic, extremely gifted, electric, defense-altering player that defenses have to account for. And if he's on a team like 49ers with all the weapons we have, even if we have to give some up, that would be incredible. I just don't think contractually, and I don't think money-wise in the amount of capital they would have to give up, I just don't think the Niners do it.
Yeah.
In a fantasy, I would love it. But I keep thinking, we have this such solid nucleus of great players. You would have to alter that. You're not going to get Lamar for just draft picks. I would assume you'd have to move.
You don't think so? You don't think so?
They would have to move contracts, wouldn't they? I mean, you got to pay him. You got to pay Bosa. You got to pay Nick Bosa. You got to pay him, Bosa, and all these other players. There's just not enough money to go around. I mean, how would you do it? I do
think you're right that they got to move contracts regardless. They got $8 million of cap space to spend this year. So
it's a whole lot of money.
Yeah, that's not too much when you think about all the free agents. We can sit here and list them all, but we all know them. So it's not a lot in general. So I feel like there are going to be some roster moves, or maybe not necessarily moves, but restructures or backloading contracts and things like that. Because that's what 49ers do. They push the money down the well. All right, well, we'll pay you eventually. You'll get your, like this year, they were paying D Ford. He wasn't on the team, and that's what they do. So in the grand scheme of things, like up front, yeah, it helps because we can get players. But in the long scheme of things, it's like in 10 years, we may still be paying for Armstead if they keep throwing that money down the well. And he's not even going to be on the team, but they'll still be paying. So in some point, it's going to come back to cost you, and eventually you won't, be able to afford it all or whatever. The cap will hit you at some point if you just keep moving the money. But the goal is to win a Super Bowl. And if they bring them in and they can win one Super Bowl and then they suck for the rest of the 9 years, I think a lot of fans would be okay with winning a Super Bowl. We've been waiting since 1995, my man. So, I mean, if this is what it takes to win a Super Bowl, I'm in. And again, I think a lot of it is dealing with the short shelf life of this window, the proverbial window, because we don't know how long it is. George Kittle's great. How long will he be great? Debo's great. How long will he be great? Warner, Bosa, CMC, great talent. Trent Williams, they're not going to be there forever. Hopefully the players they develop and they draft can be as good as those guys, but you never know. You don't know if you're going to get another elite tight end. You don't know if you're going to get another elite set of wide receivers and Christian McCaffrey and the left tackle of the generation. So it's like, man, and I love Trey and I love Brock. I love them both. But you have to ask yourself, is Lamar Jackson better than both of them? And is it worth going after him? And again, you're right. Like the logistics of making it happen, it's hard to believe it. It's hard to believe if he can be if they can afford him. Again, that's something that I don't even know if they can afford him. But the actual attempt of getting him, because there's a lot of people that say we don't even have first round picks. They can do it, but they got to wait till the draft to offer future first round picks. But then it comes down to, will the Ravens want the future picks? That's a big what if. And then if you're right, I feel like if the future picks are not enough, they got to trade somebody on the team, which probably would be Brock Purdy or Trey Lance, one of their quarterbacks. You can't keep all three quarterbacks on the roster. You have to give up one of them.
I don't know if you've listened to and this may be just their point of view. I don't know if it's official. I was listening to Lockdown 49ers with Peacock and Crocker, and they were like talking like the Niners would have to move some serious players in order to make this work financially. They were throwing out players like Bosa. And that's a no-go for me.
If you got to give up Bosa.
Crocker's like, yeah, do it. Let's do it. You don't get quarterbacks like this all the time. I'm just like, man, I don't know if I could do that. He's like, pass rushers come along a lot easier than great quarterbacks. And I'm like, that is true.
Oh, I don't know. It's hard to find a good pass rusher, man.
That's what I think. I think pass rushers are like really difficult, like game tilting, like a franchise level, like Hall of Fame level. Listen, Nick Bosa has a chance to be one of the best ever. Just based on his play so far. And the fact that he likes obsessed with football and he doesn't really care about anything else but football, that makes you realize that like he really cares about his craft. But man, it's tough, man. Like I would love for us to get that ring, but when you said like maybe we would suck down the road, I don't want to suck down the road. I want to be good for a long time. So like it's difficult for me because I want that ring also.
I do too. But here's the thing.
Go ahead.
So here's the thing. We've been sorry, I don't want to interject, but 3 out of the last 4 NFC championships, we've been there. We went to a Super Bowl. We've been really good. But what have we not been able to do? Do you want to just get to the NFC championship game every year and get there and then lose? Like if you're cool with that, cool. Like I want to win a Super Bowl. I think this team can with Brock and Trey eventually, but I don't know how long that's going to take because again, how long is Kittle going to be there? How long are they man, it's tough because I love Trey and I love Brock and you never know. But I feel like Lamar is an elite talent and you're like you said, you have to have an elite quarterback to get to the top. You have to have elite defense to help you out because you have to have a balance on both sides. I wouldn't want to get rid of Bosa because you get rid of Bosa, you bring in Lamar. Now your defense is a weak link, and then you may lose games because your defense was bailing you out a lot of times.
You got to scare 40 points to win every single game, and maybe you don't do that every single week.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say. I had it at the tip of my tongue. The old saying, robbing Peter to pay Paul. You know what I mean? Like you're taking from somebody to pay somebody else, but eventually that's going to come back around and you're going to have to pay for it down the road. And you're right. Man, it's tough. If there was a way to do it and the Niners could keep all their players, then I would say go for it. But if the Niners have to start moving salaries off the team in order to make it work, I would say hard pass.
It's tough because it is a business. Yeah. So, I mean, you might have to give up somebody to get somebody. Like it's an eye for an eye. I don't know, man. It's tough. And it all depends on again, Brock Purdy's surgery. What do the 49ers believe in Trey Lance, whether or not they do, and whether or not he can be the guy. Because at this point, we know Trey's going to be the guy. He's going to be starting this year, unless they make some drastic move in the next couple weeks. But let's just say Trey's the guy, right? He's going to start week 1. We don't know when Brock's coming back. Maybe after 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, maybe he's around that time. If Trey's looking great. And then you have 2 young quarterbacks, good. If Trey's not looking good, you better hope Brock Purdy's back. If not, if Brock Purdy's surgery is going to keep him out longer, 9 months, maybe the year, then you're in this dilemma if Trey doesn't pan out. And I believe in Trey, but my worry is, and this is what I talked about with Larry Krueger this week and I got to ask you, I don't know if the 49ers believe, if the front office of the team, like, do you get the vibe that they don't believe in Trey Lance? Like, what's your read on the Trey Lance situation?
From things I've heard, if you know what I mean, people have told me, little birdies. For me, I get the sense that the actual players, would rather win with Brock Purdy. They don't want to go through this window or this chance to get a championship with the what ifs when you already kind of have what you pretty much know with Brock Purdy, and that he has the ability to navigate this offense with all his inabilities, with his small size, his supposed weak arm, and all the things against him. This offense reached heights that we haven't seen in this era with this particular regime, coach, players. And we don't know with Trey Lance. And does a team, a franchise, a front office, a coach want to go through the what ifs when they already pretty much have their answer with the guy that they pretty much rode to the playoffs. And for all the Jimmy Garoppolo hype and talk, listen, most of the time Jimmy Garoppolo rode along for the ride. When Brock was doing his thing, the Niners were riding Brock Purdy. Yeah, he had a lot of weapons around him, but he was the difference. Without Brock Purdy, we don't make the playoffs. No doubt in my mind. So I don't know if they necessarily don't believe in Trey Lance. It might just be like, hey, we got this window, and we believe that Brock. We know what we got in Brock, whereas in Trey, it's 3 years in, we still have all these questions. And are these veterans going to go to the coach and be like, hey, listen, we got to do this now. We can't sit here and play what ifs with the quarterback. And it sucks because Trey's a great guy and he's super athletic and he's got all these God-given gifts and all this stuff. But like, a lot of people have asked me, am I anti-Trey Lance? And I'm like, no, but I'm really like into like, let's win now. And with Brock, I used to watch. It's so weird because he doesn't have the arm and all this other stuff. But like, I've never had this much confidence watching 49er football for a long time where the quarterback I know is not going to screw it up. And you have that feeling a little bit with Trey Lance because you just don't know. And you had that feeling with Jimmy Garoppolo where like Jimmy would do really good in some games. And then all of a sudden he'd give one back to the other team and keep the other team in it. Like for instance, that Dallas playoff game last year, not this past year, the year before, we should have beat their ass in that game.
Oh my God.
He gave that game back to him. And so it's tough, man. It's people always say facts over feelings. This is really results over feelings. Yeah. Trey, we don't know what the results are. We kind of know what Brock Purdy, not saying he can't come crashing down to earth, but I don't think he would. I think he would be great this year.
I think so.
I don't know. If to me, it's the players kind of run the roost here. I think if the players all go into the coaches and be like, listen, we'd rather have so-and-so in there because he's going to give us the best chance to win right now. The coach he's going to have to bend to the will of the locker room, considering without them, they don't win. So I don't know. Do you feel similar in that vein?
That's pretty much how I get. That's the vibe I get. And I feel like the players, they agree, they roll in with Brock, and Bosa said it, and Kittle, the interview, and we remember a couple weeks ago where it's Brock's job to lose. And that's the vibe they feel. And I mean, that is the right take because he came in, he proved himself. And Fred Warner on Busting with the Boys, he pretty much said the same thing. He goes, like, we played with him on in training camp. We saw how good he was. And he's like, normally the scout team quarterback, they're just there to take reps, but we saw like something special in him. And they go all the way back to training camp. Like every player has vouched for Brock and they've seen the results. That's what they know what they can get out of Brock Purdy. They know they can win games. And I think that was the same issue with Jimmy. Like we know he's not the most elite quarterback, but they won games with Jimmy. For the longest stretch, they had quarterbacks, Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, and Jimmy. And Jimmy was the only guy that could win games. So they believed in him. That was their leader. And I feel they feel the same about Brock because he's a leader. You can see that dog in him. Like he's sitting there, John, at Trent Williams, the story that Trent told. He's like, I'm in the huddle and I'm getting yelled at by Brock Purdy. That's Trent Williams. You know what I mean? And this is Brock Purdy, 22-year-old man, yelling at a generational left tackle to, hey, make sure you lined up, Trent. I'm Brock Purdy. Make sure you line up. And we just haven't seen that out of Trey. And I think he can. And like you mentioned with Jimmy, they carried him. The team carried him. I'm sure they could do the same thing with Trey. He's got the amazing upside, and eventually he'll grow into that. But I think you're right. I get the same sense as these players don't want to wait for him to grow into that, is we don't know how long it's going to take. It may take 3 games. It may take 10 games. It may not take a game. It might take like right away, boom. But they don't know. There's uncertainty, and these guys don't like uncertainty. And the thing that really I feel would help this team, and why I mentioned this, and this is why I mentioned to Larry, I said, listen, and it was all stemming to that John Lynch presser last week, and he just didn't give us like a vote of confidence. And they never do. Like last year too, with the whole quarterback situation, it was Jimmy, Trey, and we didn't know. If Kyle and John would just come out and give the vote of confidence to Trey Lance, because we know Brock Purdy's going under the knife on Friday, tomorrow. Tomorrow. No, today's Wednesday. Sorry, Friday. He's going under the knife on Friday. We know he's probably not going to be ready for the week one. So just stop making that even a thing. Brock Purdy's not going to be ready for week one because now we got fans are saying, I want Brock to be started. Like, obviously, most people do. He's not going to be starting on week one because he's not going to be ready 100%. And if he does, he's got some magical healing powers that I need to tap into that as a therapist. But I just need them to give Trey Lance a vote of confidence and say, we believe in this guy. He's going to come in. and be a great player. But what did John Lynch say? He goes, well, he's got to see the field. He hasn't been available. Best ability is availability. The players read that as, oh, we don't know if we can win with this guy. Because if John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan give the vote of confidence, the players will believe in him. Oh, coaches believe in him. The front office believes in him. We believe in him. That's our guy. But they're not giving anybody that vote of confidence. And I love Trey's upside, but I don't know. I don't even know if this front office likes him. That's my take on it.
You body language, what people say and don't say. I get from the players and from John Lynch that they still want Brock Purdy to be the starting quarterback of the 49ers.
Yeah.
And it's not Trey Lance. And this isn't an anti-Trey Lance sentiment. This is they just got to do what they got to do with the time frame they got with these players in their primes. And a lot of these players rather go and roll with Brock Purdy. They just don't want to risk it. And it sucks, but it happens. This happens all the time. You blow your freaking stack on a draft pick, and then some undrafted guy comes in, and all of a sudden, like I hate to use the Tom Brady thing, but 6th round quarterback, Drew Bledsoe, gets his job and pretty much never gives it back, wins seven Super Bowls. 7. And I hate that because I'm a Joe Montana guy.
Yeah.
You just don't know. And I'm not saying he's Joe Montana or Brock Purdy, but you got that vibe from watching him that he was a special kind of cat. And that, like I said, even if we would have lost to the Eagles, if he wouldn't have got hurt, I think that game would have been way different. So, real quick, I want to say what's up to Jag for the $2 super. He says, in the fantasy world, would you give up Trey Debo for 3 3s and 3 5s? I don't know.
3 3s and 3 5s for Trey and Debo. I mean, so that's what, 6 picks? I mean, how many of those 6 picks can make the roster? I mean, I get it. They have great late round picks, but how much are they immediately going to contribute? I mean, it's a fair trade. I think
he's saying we have to give up those plus the players.
Oh,
in order to get Lamar.
Debo and 6 picks for Lamar? Nah. That's a little bit too much. 6 picks, the Niners.
I'll give you your first rounders. I'll give you your first rounders, maybe a future, and maybe, I don't know, but like, that's where you build your roster, man. The 3rds and the 5ths, man. That's where the core of your team comes from. So I would definitely not. Real quick, I just want to say what's up to the chat. 49ers throwback, Dynamite Dave, Randy Daytona. Thank you for coming through. Who else we got in here? We got Kid. Why can't I spell Carcasses?
Carcasses. I like it.
I'm blind. Ted was in here. He was talking about when you have to rob Peter to pay Paul. He said it's like a credit card. You eventually have to pay the debt. So I agree on that. Let's see who else is in here. Dynamite Dave. What else? Frank Tom Ocean was in here earlier saying what's up. Black Panther was in here. He said, Lord, please send us Lamar Jackson. So I don't know how to feel. I really don't know how to feel about it, to be honest with you.
I don't think a lot of fans, I get, they don't want it. So I took a poll earlier. Let me pull this up. So I polled on my page. I did a community poll, and I said, if there's a realistic possibility to get Lamar Jackson, would you like the 49ers to do it? It got 3.2K votes, and 65% of those were no, and then 35% were yes. So it does seem like most of the fan base doesn't want Lamar Jackson. Let me pull out some of the comments. So this was a good comment from David1298. He says he's basically the finished product of what San Francisco was hoping Lance will become. Brandon says, if there's a realistic chance at getting him, the reality would be is that we'd be saying bye to some extremely big, crucial players to make cap work. Plus, we have Lance and/or Purdy. Lynch almost never misses with his pick, so let's stick with his choice. And then this guy, Nerd Mysteria, says, hell yeah, Lamar is one of my favorite non-Niner players. If I can get him, that'll definitely make us Super Bowl contenders. And then Mario Martinez says, it may sound exotic initially, but the last thing the 49ers need is a quarterback that has not finished the last 5 games of his last 2 seasons. And then let me see, there's another good comment I saw. RLS says that would probably equal a Super Bowl win. And then Brandon Harrison says, no, y'all need to realize that we can't afford him. His contract would break our roster, and we already need to address the O-line. So that's the general consensus of the fans today. I feel like those are what the major, points are. I think injury is a lot of, people have brought up that because 49ers are a breeding ground for injured quarterbacks, I guess, unfortunately. So if Lamar's on the Niners, obviously it'd be crazy, it'd be amazing, it'd be cool, it'd be a hype moment. Could he stay healthy on this roster? No quarterback has done it.
I'm going to say this. If the Niners were to make a trade like that, they got to win.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't win, it's an absolute failure, and there should be repercussions because you essentially are selling off the future to win in the moment. Which, listen, you said we haven't won a Super Bowl. Unless I was a freshman in high school the last time we won a Super Bowl. I'm 43, going on 44. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I was in 5th grade, my boy.
So I don't know, man. Listen, part of me is faithful to the players we have here and wanting to get them to do it so that they can enjoy it and not bring in some outside guy. But man, if it was Madden and you could turn off the salary cap in real life and just sign everybody, then yeah, I would say let's do it. But unfortunately, I just don't see it as a possibility. It's great. It's cool. It's the off season, man. This is what it's all about. Off season. It's dream time, like a dream, little dream.
Yeah,
so that's all we do. That's what we're doing right now. That's how you fill the time, fill the content. Speaking of Friday, Purdy's gonna have surgery Friday. Like we were talking. This is kind of like the complete pin on the season. We're gonna. Everything's gonna go one way or the other. If he has, once they go in there and they see what's in there, and they have the surgery, it's either going to be 6 months or it could be something worse, and it's going to affect how the Niners approach everything. Because then you go from like having to bring in, like a low-level starter for third string and then you have to seriously consider bringing in somebody substantial at quarterback because you can't just go Trey and a couple scrubs behind him. You would have to do something, right? You'd have to make a move for somebody.
Possibly. So this comes back to the confidence in Trey Lance, the trust they have in Trey Lance. So you're right. So if Brock Purdy's surgery is 6 months and they go get a scrub-tastic guy and they got Trey, then they know, okay, Brock's coming back. We're cool. He's going to be our backup, whatever. But if Brock Purdy's surgery is going to have to go longer than or his recovery is going to be longer than expected, this is going to tell us all we need to know about Trey Lance. If they go get like a very good player off, free agent, obviously they're not going to go A-Rod or something like that. They're not going to get that guy. But if they go and get like a Mariota who's actually pretty capable, he can compete, or somebody of that caliber, that's telling me like, oh, this guy's good enough to go and compete with Trey. He's not a scrub-tastic guy. That tells me right there, like, okay, Trey may not be the guy. Whereas if they go and get like Colt McCoy, that tells you all you need to know. It's going to be like, okay, Trey's the guy. Colt's going to be very good as a solid backup filler or whatever. Or if they get 2 scrubs, whatever, that'll tell you like, okay, they really are going to give Trey the vote of confidence. So if that's the way I look at this is, okay, Brock goes under surgery. If he's going to go and recover longer than expected and they go get some scrubs, they really believe in Trey. And that's what I want them to do. I want them to do that because they got to give Trey that vote of confidence. Now, if they don't, and then we're going to have another quarterback controversy. Then we're going to have 3 good quarterbacks on this roster. Now what the hell is going to happen? So it's going to be interesting. That surgery is going to dictate a lot.
It's going to dictate everything, and I really hope it's for the better. I'll bet the Niners says if we sign Lamar, I won't be mad. Still young, MVP QB, but right now I'd rather roll with Trey and see what he's got. Have to see him for more than 1.5 games, preferably not at a monsoon. 100% agree. Yeah. He just hasn't had a fair shake. Partially, I mean, it's on him. He can't stay healthy. I mean, not necessarily blaming him, but I don't know, man. Learn how to slide. I don't know. Be faster. Don't run into the middle of the line. I don't know what the problem is. All I know is the Niners, all their quarterbacks get hurt all the time, no matter what. They could have a giant Ben Roethlisberger back there with his big ass, and he probably would have gotten injured too. It's just tough, man. It's tough because I love the kid. When they drafted him, I was just like everybody else. You see all those reaction videos where everyone was all hooting and hollering, and my brother was standing there right there next to me. I didn't think they were going to draft him. I thought they were going to draft Mac Jones.
Yeah.
So when they said Trey Lance, I stood up. My brother was there. I freaking slapped out of his hand. Like, yeah. And we haven't seen nothing, and it sucks.
Oh,
But
I was hyped.
I think a lot of people were hyped. But at the same time, bro, if Brock Purdy wins us games, man, I don't have any favorites, man. I just want us to win. I want to win a Super Bowl. And to me, it's not a popularity contest. It's a meritocracy. It's all about who does it. They even asked Lynch, I think Mayoka asked him in an interview, it's not about where you're drafted, man. It's if you help the 49ers win. And sometimes the 7th round guy is a better fit than the first or third pick in the draft, just because for some reason the offense moves better with him and he's able to do more with the players around him. And he can hit those intermediate throws and he's accurate in the short game. And he has command of the huddle and he's just, it's something, man, watching Purdy last year, it was like too good to be true. You know, just the way he ran that offense. I've never seen such confidence from the players around him in a guy that literally was passed over by everybody in the draft. Yeah. So he's got massive testicular fortitude. That's all I'll say. But Jag, once again, with another $2 super, he says, if Lamar is our QB versus the Eagles, do we beat the Eagles?
Oh, I 100%.
You'd have to, our whole offense would be different. I'm sorry. It would be a completely different offense. It would be an option type offense because you literally every play would have to account for him. And then if you account for him, then you have to account for Kittle. And if you account for Kittle, then you got to account for CMC. And you got to account for Debo. Everybody. That's the kind of, when he's effective and he's playing at his highest level, Lamar, that would be the type of offense. And then you got guys running wide open because they got to play the run.
Yeah.
And then if they don't play him, then you got our running backs running wild. So as much as he gets grief for maybe not being a great quarterback in the playoffs and stuff and being inaccurate, like I said, when an offense where he has more determined reads, where he has guys open and he has such good playmakers around him, I think he would look a lot different than he did in Baltimore.
Oh, 100%, man, 100%. And I mean, most people think that we would have beat the Eagles with Brock Purdy. So, I mean, obviously, if we're going to beat them Brock, I'm not saying that Lamar's better or Brock's better, whatever the case. If Brock Purdy was going to beat him, Lamar would have beat him because this offense is going to be dynamic. They were averaging 34 points a game with Brock. You mentioned it. They don't make the playoffs without Brock. They don't make the playoffs with CMC. Those two guys really elevated this offense. So, again, obviously, I think Brock's the guy right now. He's the starter, but he's going to surgery Friday. So there's a lot of uncertainty. I think everybody knows Brock's the guy right now. He's the starter. The team believes in him. But I don't think people are realizing. I think they forget he's getting surgery Friday. He's injured. He may not play this season. So that's why we're having these hypothetical situations. Because, again, what do we say? We don't know if the team believes in Trey. And, again, I think the world of him. Like you said, you were so hyped on draft day. I remember live, and I was screaming. We were live. We had our quad box live, all four of us. Me and the guys I usually go live with. And we were going crazy because I remember that whole draft scenario, the weeks leading up to it. We were, no, Mac Jones. Oh, my God. Justin Fields at 3. Trey Lance. So one of those two, Justin Fields or Trey Lance, we wanted. We got Trey. We were going crazy. No, Mac Jones. And the hype is there. The potential's there. But, again, it just depends on what does this front office believe in. Do they believe in him? We'll get some clarification this week, hopefully, for Brock. But it's going to be interesting. And, again, if you get a guy like Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy can't be there, and if you don't believe in Trey, Lamar could help this team win a Super Bowl. And at the end of the day, that's all we want.
That's the goal.
To win a
it
Super
is.
Bowl. And like you said, like I love the players, but as I've gotten older, I realize you can't just get attached to players because it's a business.
I know.
The names on the jerseys are going to change, but
that's
it's
what
all
Beto
about
Niner Sickness always says. It's the symbol on the side of the helmet, Cats.
Yeah, the names.
As
are
much
change,
as we love
man.
players, it's all about the team.
We love these players, and I talk to them a lot, on DMs and stuff. And I talk to them, and they're like, and I used to be like, oh, don't leave this and that. And they're like, well, I got to get my bread. And now I realized that I was like, good for
business.
you. Like, I was talking to Samson Ebicam. I was like, man, I see you grinding because he's posted a lot of workout videos. He says, I'm just trying to get, some stuff out there. I want people to know. I think Jordan Schultz posted something on Twitter about him, about how, he used his stats and hyping them up. That's what these players want. They want to hype themselves up, whether they come back to the team, the Niners, or not. I don't think that they don't care, but they know that they want the best for them, the best.
Yeah, they're a brand, essentially.
They're a brand. And I used to have players tell me, like in the offseason, hey, can you post these stats? Hey, can you post my PFF? Can you post this? Because they want, that's their marketing. Right now, social media is their marketing. I've had players, I'm not going to name all the names, where during the offseason, I would hype them up. They probably got more money because they were getting exposure. Not just me, other fan pages. That's what they do. They know that we're valuable for them, so they're like, hey, hype me up, post this video, post these stats, and they follow you. That's cool for you as a content creator. Oh, this
That's
player
awesome.
follows me, but at the same time, they're getting something out of it because the more I hype them up, the more recognition they get. Because in this free agency market nowadays, people don't see your clips. If they don't see a lot of your grades, your highlights, baby, you don't stick out to these people in negotiations. They need that stuff because that's part of their negotiation process. So it's a business, man. You can't get attached to these players.
Nope.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let's move the needle a little bit to the Robbie Gould situation. In a lot of ways, it looks like he's gone. He isn't going to be back.
Yeah.
I've heard of people talking about maybe the ex-Rams kicker possibly, or the guy from Carolina, or drafting, the only kicker in the draft that everybody talks about from Michigan. What's your opinion on the situation? What would Raj do? Where are you going?
I'm drafting Jake Moody from Michigan. Go get my boy because he's going to cost a lot less money than Robbie Gould. And I love Robbie. Again, it's a business. He's been very valuable to this team. He's clutch in the postseason. He's 40 years old. He's got his family in Chicago. He lives out of a hotel during the season to play with the Niners. Like, the guy's done so much. $5 million, $6 million for a kicker. That's a lot of money, man. And
you
he's
could spend
great.
it on someone else.
You can spend part of that money on someone else. You got a lot of holes to fill, and I love Robbie Gould, man. And I know he's clutch, and I don't want to miss these kicks in the postseason. But at the same time, man, you got a guy like Jake Moody. He could be the next big kicker in the NFL, and he's gonna be a lot cheaper. I think that's the way I would go. You save money. You get a kicker for a couple $100,000 compared to a couple million.
Yeah,
big difference in cap space. And in Moody, man, so I watch a lot of Michigan football. This man kicks. His longest was 59 yards. Man, this guy can kick. He has a leg. It's going to help field position.
He's young. He's got a big leg. Oh,
touchbacks can happen.
We need touchbacks. Oh my Lord!
Big. And I think Kyle could be a little bit more aggressive because he knows he can.
Yes.
If he has like a 50-yard field goal in his bag, maybe we could be a little bit more aggressive on third down. I think it makes sense to go after the young buck. And I love Robbie. I think he's been a very great player for us. But he's been trying to go home long years. Like the only time the 49ers franchised a player in the Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch regimen was Robbie Gould a couple years back, 4 years ago. Then they extended him for like $6 million a year almost. And he was like, I'm going to hold out. I'm a kicker. I want to go back to Chicago. I want to be with my family. And now I think they realize, all right.
They imprisoned him over here.
Really
like, no.
did,
Randy Daytona made a good point. He's like, Brock made Robbie expendable. With Jimmy still here, we definitely re-signed Robbie. I really believe that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they actually score touchdowns now instead of field goals all the time. It almost felt like with Jimmy on the offense, it was like we were just like okay with field goals. Like, no, man, we got to score touchdowns.
Robbie was like the MVP of the offense half the time.
Yeah, we need tutties, man. We don't need kicks.
100%. Because I remember for the longest stretch during last season, I was like, Robbie Gould's not doing nothing. And I remember I was at the Raiders game, so I see Robbie Gould coming in. And I was like, honestly, I haven't seen Robbie line up for a kick in a long time. He misses the field goal. He shanks it. And I'm going, oh, this man's so rusty. I mean, thankfully, he hits the game-winning field goal. But that was the thing. We didn't even need him. And I feel like if your offense is good enough to score touchdowns, you don't necessarily always need a kicker. But before, you're right. When you couldn't punch the ball in, you needed a kicker that could put some points on the board. Because Robbie was most of our points for a long time, man. So.
Damn, Jag, you're killing me. He says 29 for 29 in the postseason. Need a kicker to be clutch. I agree.
That's it, yeah.
We talk about it now in the offseason, like, whatever. And then in the time where you get to that point where a guy misses a kick, and then you'll be saying, I wish we had Robbie Gould still.
Yeah, you know it's going to happen.
I want to go back to quarterback for a second. So I should have asked you this when we were kind of banging on that topic for half an hour. If the Niners don't need to go big on a quarterback because, say, Purdy's surgery goes well and stuff, there's been some options that have been kind of floated out there. None of them are really sexy, but they mean that the Niners are going to be good with their first two quarterbacks. This guy is officially he's going to be a third stringer. He's going to be probably inactive for a lot of time. The options out there: Brissett, Mayfield, Dalton. maybe even Matt Ryan. Like I always quote on Locked On 49ers because I love those dudes. They are really big on the Matt Ryan train, bringing someone like Matt Ryan. I know I'm not either. I know. He got Crocker on that. Crocker was like, hell no, and now he's like singing the praises of Matt Ryan.
Oh God.
What would be your what would be your option between all those guys? I personally, I don't want anything to do with Mayfield. None of these guys sound really good, but they would essentially be a third stringer who wouldn't play.
Yeah.
So I mean, Dalton, Brissett, that's
So,
kind of.
I mean, the way you got to look at it is, they're your quarterback three. They're not going to play the game unless dire straight situation, which the Niners somehow get to year by year. Like it was last year wasn't the first time they ran through all their quarterbacks. They had, Trey, then Jimmy, then Brock, and then Josh Johnson came in, and that was dire straits. You don't want to be left to Josh Johnson, who had a concussion, and then CMC and Juice are your quarterback. You don't want to be in that position. So whoever comes in has to be okay with taking that third string role, okay, waiting his time, holding the clipboard. But a QB3 may be a QB2 in this position because Brock's going to be on the mend for a while. We don't know when he's coming back. So whoever takes this job, they know it's an opportunity because unfortunately the 49ers have had a lot of injuries through the years. So maybe they know, okay, I'm going to get this opportunity. If I get some games and I look great with this weapons on the Niners, CMC and Kittle and everybody that we've talked about, they're going to look good, and that's going to help them maybe get a job after they leave the 49ers. Like, oh, man. So if I had to pick between those guys that you mentioned, I like Jacoby Brissett. I think he's played well over the couple of years. He came out. He played in the same offense that Jimmy Garoppolo played years ago with the Patriots. So I think he has some familiarity with and I think he would do well with Kyle Shanahan. He's a smart veteran. I don't think he cares about being the starter. He's there. I think he'd be a good mentor. I like Jacoby. I think he's good compared to all those guys. Obviously, if that's the pool that we're pulling out of, give me Jacoby. But again, you got to remember it's third string.
Yeah, you're effectively you're going for a third string quarterback. We have to remind ourselves to not fall in love with a list that has Heineke.
Yeah.
And what's his face from the Eagles, Mariota.
Yeah,
Mariota, we're not trying to pay $14 million a year for backup. We want bare ass minimum for these guys.
You want to pay a guy cheap because if he's going to sit there on the roster all year and maybe not even play and rot on the bench, you're going to pay a guy $14 million. If you're going to pay a guy $14 million, you could have brought back Jimmy Ward. You could have maybe paid $3 million more and got Jesse Bates. You know what I mean? So if you're going to pay all that money for a backup that may not even play, you got to be. So they got to be smart. So I think again, going back to Brock Purdy's situation, that's going to dictate who they get. And it is interesting. And then again, goes back to, do they trust Trey? So all these things come back full circle. It's interesting. Again, I like Jacoby. I think he'd be good in that position. It's tough though, because man, you don't want anything bad to happen. But again, like I said, this isn't the first time. Last year happened, but I mean, think about when Jimmy was your QB1. Jimmy was there. He got hurt. They had to bring up CJ Beathard. He got hurt. And then they had to go to Nick Mullins. They did it before. This is not the first time they ran through their quarterbacks, man.
Jeez.
That's what I don't think people realize is last year wasn't the first time. Last year they did it and it worked out because thank God they had Brock Purdy, who's the Messiah somehow, and they made it to the NFC Championship, right? And it's not the first time this happened to the Niners, but knowing that as a backup quarterback, you're like, oh, the 49ers, they've done this many times. I'm in. Sign me up for QB3.
I can jump along for the ride and have all these great playmakers around me.
Yeah.
Randy or Mike 49ers throwback has been asking me to talk offensive line. He said somebody just said Mike McGlinchey said his goodbyes. What's your take on please don't tell me that Colton McKivitz is the future right tackle, because that to me just says you're being cheap and you don't want to invest in the position.
Okay, I won't tell you that, but that's probably reality right now.
Of course. And you wonder why no.
Yeah, Mike McGlinchey, man, you know what? I know a lot of players don't like, a lot of fans don't like him, but God, dog, I posted this. I posted his, what he said on KNBR on my Instagram. I mean, these messages, these comments, man. So he was on KNBR with Murph and Mac, I think. No, Papa and Lund. He was on KNBR, and I'm gonna just give you his quotes. He essentially did say his goodbyes, and he kind of said farewell, and he reflected on his time with the Niners. Like, I get it. He didn't live up to his draft stock and everything, but God, dog, man, people, they really showed how much they hated. The guy was a good person, right? So this is what he said. I'm going to read all 3 tweets they posted. So he goes, it's been as fun as me is it's been as fun for me as it's been for everybody else. My family and I are forever grateful for the faithful, the 49ers, the Yorks, John and Kyle and everybody there. If this is it, then I just want to say thank you to everyone. He says it's definitely a tough deal. We have a lot of great players in the 49ers organization, which is why we've been so good for the last 5 years. It makes it really hard to afford everybody. And then he says, I'm extremely fond of the time I've had here. I think the Niners are a first-class organization all the way. I couldn't be prouder of the time I've spent with the 49ers and the work we've put in. So he essentially said goodbye to the team. Writing's on the wall. But, I mean, he's a good dude. Again, okay, we're going to lose McGlinchey. If they replace him with Colton McKivitz, is that even that's not even better? That's not better than Mike McGlinchey. So it's like they're going to rag on McKivitz, and then they're going to sit there and say, "Oh, we should have kept Mike McGlinchey."
I just don't understand how you can be okay with a guy like McKivitz when, like, you can't. I mean, what about Burford to right tackle? What about spending a little bit in free? Like, are you going to make one free agent move this year?
It depends on the money, if they can move the money. And then it goes back to the draft because they did scout a lot of players in the draft. I mean, there's a lot of good. There's Freeland from BYU. There's Cody Mock. But it depends on if they're going to be there, right?
If they're going to be it, because the Niners don't pick to the 3rd round.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, man.
If they can get Cody Mock, that solves the problem. Cody Mock is a stud right there.
Do you think they draft right tackle in the draft? Or do you think
I think you have to. Even if you think McKivitz is going to come in and start because he has the experience, you have to take a guy because injuries. And in case McKivitz doesn't look good or if he's not panning out or if he's injured, you get a guy that can come in right away because that's a very important position. Last year they hit on Burford and he was a rookie. And that was and it was like kind of a questionable thing. I remember everybody's like, oh, man, is this kid going to be able to play guard? I don't know. Is he going to be able to start? He was a quality starter. I talked to him before.
Played really well this year.
He was good.
So did Aaron Banks.
Yeah.
I was down on Aaron Banks, but I did say, this is what I said. I said, get him in a weight room, give him another offseason, get that body to stop looking like a college body and get it like an NFL body.
Yeah.
And dude came in and him and Trent Williams locked down that left side of that line.
They crushed. I remember talking to Burford last year before training camp, and he talked about how he did train with Trent Williams last year, him and Jason Poe, and he goes, you see a guy like that, you know what it takes to be a high quality lineman in the league because they train. I'm sure they go out there work, but when you see a guy like Trent Williams every day, and you're like, oh my God, this is that's going to rub off on them. So I think those guys, Aaron Banks and Burford, they're going to get even better because they know what Trent Williams has done to make himself the guy he is. So that's going to be like, I know O-line's a big priority for us, but I think people got to realize Trent's Trent. He's great. He's got another 2 years of elite level play on him. But you got Spencer Burford and Aaron Banks. They're going to get better. So those are 3 really good quality players on your O-line. You got to figure out your center. And I think Jake Brendel, you bring him back, he's good. I like Jake Brendel. That was his first year as a starter. You bring him back. The only issue you have is right tackle. But all I see on Twitter is, they got to improve their O-line. O-line's terrible. The O-line's terrible. Not really. It's just the right tackle. They can move up. So they have 3 third-round picks. Maybe if they move up to get a premium right tackle, like one of the best in the league, that's all. To me, that solves that problem.
It would totally solve everything.
Cody Mock with this line, that's it. That's all you need.
We'll see, man. We got a little bit of time. We got free agencies hitting next week. I saw the cap guy on I think his name is Jason Hurley talking about he'll have the Niners will make their restructures and he'll get all the information out to us. That's what's going to make me happy.
I think we got some news coming up in a few days. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. What do we got? Let's go rapid fire. Real quick. If you're the Niners and you have to make one move in free agency, I asked you this on your Instagram Live. Instead of like blowing your whole stack on one guy, would you double down and say get a Justin Houston? Justin Houston's got over 100 sacks in his career. Yeah. He's not a slouch. He's a little old, He's a little old. And maybe get another guy like an Arden Key or someone, or maybe someone a little low level to come in and have two. Or according to Niner Sickness, he's like, nah, you go for the one dude and you make that impact play and get a Frank Clark. What's your take?
It's tough. I think Justin Houston is consistent. Yeah, you brought it up. I looked up his stats. I was like, dude, this guy gets like 9 sacks every year. He's 80 years old and he's still getting you 9. Like, the guy's a model of consistency. He's a leader. He come in as a discount. Because this is what the 49ers do. They want to rotate guys. They want a bunch of guys that could come in and rotate. And I think Justin Houston would do wonders for Drake Jackson, that guy that's young, who
give him a little less to worry about.
Yeah, teach him up. I think Justin Houston would be great. Like, I would love to get Frank Clark. I think he'd be great on this line. But he's getting up there in age too, and he's had some,
he's a little bit of a malcontent.
He's a little bit of a hothead, and he's had some issues with the 49ers. So there might be some character issues. How is he going to vibe with this 49ers locker room? Like, I get it. Once he's here, he'll be a teammate. But I'd go Justin Houston, and then you can get another guy, maybe in the interior D-line, because you go get a guy on the outside, and you put a guy on the inside, because who the hell knows what's going to happen with Javon Kinlaw this year? He's unfortunately hasn't been able to see the field. We talked about
I've kind of mentally moved on from him, but he can prove us all wrong. David McNider, real quick, said something about the Rams releasing Floyd. And that's going to be my next question after this, about how the Rams are cleaning house. But Floyd, I would assume he's going to command a lot of money, wouldn't he? I mean, or is he kind of in that, situation where we could make a move for two guys? Is he kind of up there? And I don't really know his salary. I would assume he was one of the Rams' better players. So
he's good. I think he probably played himself into having a pretty decent contract. Maybe priced himself out of the Niners, unless again they're gonna probably do some restructuring, so he might be able to be a guy they can afford. But I'd want to get two guys. I need to make sure they get
too.
because
like you got to remember, if it's interior and outside, I would be cool with that.
Because you got to remember, we're not bringing back everybody. We have 3 linemen that were actually more than 3. So you had Jordan Willis, he's free agent. Charles Omenihu, Samson Ebicam, McGill, I think is free agent. Kevin Givens, and then who else? Mo Hurst, he's a free agent, although he never really played for us. And then
really never actually played.
There was another guy that's a free agent. The guy we brought in from the Colts.
McGill? No,
not McGill. The other lineman.
I know the name.
Hassan Ridgeway.
Ridgeway.
So, all those guys are free agents. How many of them are you bringing back? Maybe a few of them. But how many of them can you bring back? I don't know. So you're going to lose some quality guys. I hope they bring back Omenihu. If you don't, you got to replace. Like, that's quality players.
I don't see Ebukam. He said a lot of people are saying he's pressed himself out. Like, he's looking for 10 mil plus a year.
Yeah, it's kind of.
No offense to him, he hasn't shown that he can be that. I mean, he's good against the run. I think he's a great run defender, but pass rush wise, I didn't see anything from him last year that would said, yeah, we got to re-sign him. If anything, I'd go after a Justin Houston. Yeah. And hopefully they can do that. If they could slam 2 positions in free agency and then kind of move over to the draft and try to address as much as they can, I would be really happy. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. They don't have a lot of money right now. They have to restructure, but they need to at least take free agency and improve at least one area of concern, whether that's a right tackle in free agency or a couple of defensive linemen. They need to do that because we're picking in the 3rd round. We're going to miss out on some great talent. I'm not saying that great talent doesn't fall to you, but this is all on your scouts now. The later you get in the draft, this isn't like, oh, this guy's a no-brainer. We got to draft him at 10. No, we're in the hundreds now. So like
that's hard work. And do you think that one of those guys is going to be immediate starter? Like,
right.
The 49ers develop. Yeah, they take some time to make them. Like, it takes 2-3 years for them to really become like gelled into this team and learn the system and then become a starter. Like Talanoa Hufanga, his first year, he wasn't a starter. He was just, around the team, special teams. Then he was second year. Okay, cool. They got to replace Tart. And Sam Womack, he showed some things last year. He'll probably have to step up this year.
Yes,
Lenore, so there are players that step up, but it's not immediately. Like, even Aaron Banks, like we talked about, his first year, everybody thought he was going to be a bust. And we were like, why are you getting rid of Lakin? And he panned out second year.
Oh, yeah. I was one of those guys. I'm like, but when people started to explain Lakin and some stuff to me, and I started to be like less pissed off about it. I forget exactly who was on the stream or how they kind of explained some things about Lakin. It might have been Larry. Larry likes to break it down and get into the nitty gritty of stuff.
Good, yeah.
He made me realize that Lakin wasn't that big of a deal. He was big on like letting guys develop and getting a chance to play, and he was right. Bear Banks, Larry called Brock Purdy before Brock Purdy happened. He's calling Marcelino McCrary Ball to have some sort of impact next year.
Oh, 100%. I was on.
He's been preaching that for a while.
He was because I talked to Larry a lot last year. We were at training camp together.
He's a scout at heart.
Bro, he is so like I was there with him on one of the days and watching, and he's just like, right, look at that. Right. I'm like, fuck, man, his head's like moving like 100 miles, and he's like looking at everywhere. I'm just still figuring out pre-snap motion. I'm still like, oh, that was he's everywhere, bro. He's like, keep up, man. But yeah, he's such a good talent evaluator. But my boy Rohan, Rohan, we were there. We watched a lot of training camp. We were pretty much there together every day last year, and we were like every day we'd compare notes, and I was like, who stood out to you, Ron? He's like, McCrary Ball. It's like, that's exactly like that guy. He's an undrafted free agent, just like Azeez Al-Shahir. And I feel like he's going to have the same trajectory as this young linebacker. Got that dog in him. Oh, 100%. I have no doubt in my mind.
They're like linebacker factory, man. Yeah. I don't know, man.
Yeah. They are.
I guess we wrap this up. Talk about the NFC West, man, falling apart around us. The Cardinals look like they have some problems. Let's talk about the Rams. I have a really good relationship with the Rams content creator, Payo Time, Zach, real good guy.
Yeah.
And he jumped into my stream last night, the NWO stream the other night, and I asked him, I said, are they rebuilding? I said, sure looks like it. I told him, I said, it looks like they went for it. They got their chip. Niner fans can hate on it all they want. They still got it. And now like the whole robbing Peter to pay Paul, they're having to pay Paul now. They robbed Peter for the chip, and now they have to pay. And they're getting rid of pretty much all their top-end talent. And how much longer does Matthew Stafford have? So, like, the Rams might be bad for a while.
Yeah, 100%.
If there's anybody in that division, Seattle's the team I worry about.
Yeah.
Even though they have Geno Smith at quarterback, but that's a whole other discussion. But
yeah, so this is kind of essentially what I said is Seattle to me is going to be number 2 in this division. Niners are going to run this league, this division.
Good. So you can be like the Patriots for like 10 years and just have a 6-0 record every year in the division.
Potentially, because the Seattle Seahawks will be number 2. They got a good defense, young players. They got some really good players on that team, and Pete Carroll. They're going to be good as long as Pete Carroll's there, so they'll be able to win games. Geno, man, he just finessed the NFC. He just finessed it, man. Like, shout out to Geno. This man went and got a massive contract for playing half a good. I wouldn't even say a whole year. He played half a good season.
Good first.
And they gave him a bag, man. This guy was just out there. Story of the year, comeback player of the year. Shout out to Geno. This guy was a perennial backup quarterback. Like his whole career, 12 years, he was backup, and now he's getting premium money. I was like, wow. Shout out to Geno. This man finesse the Seahawks. I'm not worried about them because Geno Smith's never going to win a Super Bowl. He's not taking this team to the NFC West championship, so he's not going to win the NFC West. I'm not worried. The Cardinals are breaking apart. They got a new coach. Kyler's not going to be there. They might lose D-Hop. They're losing players left and right. That
got rid of Robbie Anderson.
Chosen Anderson. They're getting rid of everybody. They're going to be last place for a while. I mean, new coach. It's going to take them time to kind of get things.
That's why the Niners need to get this work done.
Because they can. The Niners can run this division.
Yeah, you better do it. No excuses.
But I think even with Trey now, because you got to realize Trey could be better than any of these quarterbacks. Because one thing you said too, Matt Stafford, he might retire in a year or two. He might be gone. Especially if he has to play.
He's got a spine problem, not just an elbow issue he had. He has a legitimate back problem.
Back problems. And you got to remember, okay, he came from Detroit when Detroit was really bad. They're looking like they're turning things around. And he played on this garbage Detroit team. And now he's going to, obviously they won the Super Bowl. Good for them. They paid a Super Bowl, and that's great for them. But now he's going to be probably on a garbage Rams team. They had a fire sale. They got no draft picks. You think Matt Stafford wants to play for another team that's going to be gutter trash for a while? He already took his lumps.
I'm surprised the coach came back for that.
He's going to get paid. That's why he came back. He's going to take his money.
He's a handsome guy, man. He's going to age out with this bad team.
I know. Honestly, if I was him, I would have went to the booth. He would have got a lot of money.
Yeah, he can. He reminds me a lot of what's his name that used to coach the Bucks. He's got that, like, he talks, what I'm talking about. The crazy guy that got fired from the Raiders.
Yeah, Chucky Gruden.
Gruden. How about the Niners? Says, I'm worried about the Seahawks. They have a cornucopia of prime draft. That's true.
Yeah, they are good at drafting.
That's my worry, and they are good at drafting, and they have a really good young secondary, at least 2 good corners. So
if they go get a quarterback this year,
yeah, I still think they might.
Yeah, they might.
Hell, remember what the Seahawks did when they got Matt Flynn? I think it was Matt Flynn, and then they drafted Russell
Wilson.
Yeah, that's what somebody in the comments earlier said, that there's no such thing as. I was trying to make an analogy. He's like, there's never been a 7th round QB that's beat out a 3rd rounder and we still don't know if the quarterback has. All I'm trying to say is sometimes it happens that the guy that's later in the draft ends up having a better career than the 6th round. Brady was a 6th round pick. Montana was a 3rd round pick.
Yeah. It's not always about
sometimes scouts miss.
Yeah. It's not always about early picks, and
it's not always about your talent. Sometimes it's about the brain part of the game.
Mental.
You could have freaking what's his name, the quarterback from the Chargers, Ryan Leaf. He had all the physical tools in the world, but his upstairs game, he had a lot of problems.
He went on, and he's been on a lot of podcasts.
I really have loved how he's turned his life around. I actually got a response from him on Twitter once.
Oh, yeah?
For someone who deals with depression and stuff, I just told him that he's an inspiration for everything he's had to deal with and like continue to be that guy and stuff. And he said, thank you. And I was like, whoa, Ryan Leaf. I was just being honest, just to hear everything he's been through. But anyways, but as a player, he was poopy.
He didn't have it. He didn't have the work ethic. He admitted it. He goes, I didn't work hard. I didn't try hard. I didn't care. I was.
And he was huge, 6'5", big arm, just
he was a slob, man, and he just lost himself. And some players, they get to the league and it's too much pressure. Like Jamarcus Russell, the guy was not working.
That man ate himself out of the league.
He ate himself out the league. Johnny Manziel, he drank himself out the league. Like some of these guys, they get the fame, the money, power, man. And it's just too much. And you're right. Sometimes these late round picks, they get upset that they got passed on. They're like, I'm going to work harder than everybody in the room, and I'm going to prove you that I'm better than them. And that's what they do. And that's sometimes what it takes. Like there's so many players on the 49ers roster that are quality players for this team, and they were late round picks. Like sometimes I'm scared with their 1st round picks. I'm like, oh shit.
Kind of glad they're picking in the 3rd round this year.
I love that they don't have any 1st round.
This is Adam Peters. This is Adam Peters and his scouts. This is where they make their freaking paper, man.
That's where they make that dollar.
That's where they make all that money. Yeah. Hey man, it's been great. Next week will be interesting because I'll be recovering from my surgery while Brock Purdy's recovering from his surgery. And maybe, who knows, maybe next week we'll be talking the 9, because I think when does legal tampering happen? Monday?
So Monday, legal tampering, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. So that's legal tampering. Monday's going to be a busy day. And Wednesday is the first day of free agency, basically, when players can actually sign. So we're going to probably get most of the signings Monday, and then Wednesday's going to be busy. I'm going to be out of town this weekend, but I'm going to be driving back Monday, but I won't be driving. So I'm going to be sitting there posting in the passenger seat.
You'll be sitting there in the passenger seat. Get your coffee. Got to have your
coffee.
I'm
going to be a passenger princess this weekend.
Yeah, baby.
My news out. And then I'll be off all week next week because I got to cover free agency, and I'm going to be live all day. I'm going to be posted. That's what we do, man. On free agency, I'm going to be. Yeah,
we're doing this next week, man. And the Niners make some moves in free agency. We could spend a whole show talking about one move.
100%. I'll be live. You can hop on the stream, whatever, man. I'm excited for next week.
Me too. I hope. Here's the thing: do the Niners make a move?
They'll make some.
We do this to ourselves all the time, and then nothing happens, and we're like, we're cheap. We don't do anything,
and then
it's
people post the meme of 49ers rich, do something, poking nothing, and and then there's gonna be the funny memes of waiting for the 49ers to do something to be a skeleton, and they're dying. So
I've seen them all.
I know how it's gonna be.
My share of them too.
I got them saved up for the moment so I can make some funny posts. I can't wait for that. But first and foremost, the 49ers got to figure out who they're bringing back, because we do have a slew of players, and then whoever they don't, maybe they'll bring in a new face or two. I think because every offseason they do bring in a new face or two. They've traditionally, under the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch era, and every offseason, I remember the first year they took over, I was hyped because I remember they were making moves. Pierre Garçon, Marquise Goodwin, Kyle Juszczyk. I was like, Jerick McKinnon, they're spoiling. They're getting all this talent.
Yeah, it was really, we were all happy.
And then every year from that, they make some, at least one a year, man. And last year though, very splashy. They went and got Travis Ward, Ray McLeod. They got George Odom, very good special teams players. Oren Burks. So they made a few moves. I remember the year they got Richard Sherman. Holy God, that was crazy when they got Sherman, man. So I'm hyped up, man.
Me too. And it's funny because we'll get our update on this coming Friday. So hopefully, we'll have the news of Brock Purdy's situation, and we'll probably get some restructures. So there'll be a lot of news next week. Regardless,
I definitely feel that Friday is going to be a news dump. I just have this feeling that Friday or
your spidey sense is tingling. We're going to have a lot of
tingling that we're going to have some news drops coming in these next few days, and it's going to be boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
busy,
content
busy.
creators galore, man. Everybody's going to be freaking putting out their content.
I'll be live doing my videos. I'll be like,
yeah.
I'm here because I'm out of town. I'm gonna be in Disneyland. I'm gonna be like, all right, we got breaking news, Niners. This happened.
Was that Mickey Mouse that just walked past him in the background? Yeah. Oh, hey, what up, Mickey? Yo, Mickey, Justin Houston just signed. What up? That would be awesome.
Man. Yeah.
All right, everybody in the chat. Thanks for coming through. We'll see if we'll do this next Wednesday, hopefully, regardless of where we're coming from. Whether it's my channel or Raj's, and I can't wait. Hopefully, free agency brings us some new presence, and we could talk about that. Hopefully, we have the news on Brock Purdy. That's great. Niners do restructures, all that happy stuff. Everybody have a great night. Talk to you later.
Peace.
Peace.